Lately, several worrying incidents have given us pause to consider the state of our racial harmony.
Sziasztok! A mai videóban arról akarok beszélni, hogy miképpen reagál Szingapúr a Covid-válság kapcsán itt is felgyülemlő feszültségre, például a rasszizmus tekintetében, vagy a kisebbségek kezelése tekintetében, és a felvezetőben bemutatott felszólalás eleje a pénzügyminiszter beszédéből van, amiből nagyon sokat fogok ebben a videóban idézni, és azért ő szólal föl egyébként, mert ő a Covid-válság kezelésért felelős minisztériumokat összekötő munkacsoportnak a társelnöke, meg az egyik legjobb beszélőkéje az neki van, és azt hiszem, hogy nagyon tanulságos az, amit a kormányzat szempontjából elmond a tényleg kézzelfoghatóan érzékelhető növekvő feszültségekről, de mielőtt még az ő beszédébe belevágnánk, nézzük meg, hogy mi is történt, milyen incidensek történtek Szingapúrban, és talán a legpraktikusabb, hogyha az ezekről készült különféle videókat mutatom be, ami egyszerre két legyet ütünk egy csapásra, mert egyszerre mutatja be azt, hogy mi történt tényszerűen, ugyanakkor ezek a videók, ezek szingapúri youtuberek által készültek, és valamilyen módon egy ilyen reflektálást is látunk rá. Szóval nézzük először meg, hogy mik történtek, és aztán térjünk vissza a pénzügyminiszter beszédéhez.
Guys, today I read the news of a man insulting an Indian woman and then hit her with a flying kick. Ooh. And she flew on the ground. And this happened in Singapore. This man who kicked her is what? Must be a Chinese lah, even though the news did not report it. Moreover, she was just wearing her mask halfway, that kind of thing, you know? This a mask? Like this. Like this. Moreover, why should we be so sensitive with the Indians? Particularly, the virus spread is not because of the Indians. If we want to fault someone, there are so many races we can blame non-stop, including the Malays due to Indonesia's situations and the Caucasians, especially the Americans. And before that, the most condemned ones were the Chinese. Therefore, the spreading has nothing to do with races or any nationality, but the people who do not care about themselves and keep on gathering without any sense of social responsibility.
Now we got this guy. Enough with the talking. Let's jump in. Let's jump in.
Race for what? Because if you are proud of your own race, you know you're Indian. Okay, nothing against Indian, but I think it's a racist. The Indians maybe against us.
Yeah. This guy has absolutely no problem with an Indian. No. That is why he stopped this dude in the middle of the street just to tell him, yo, if you are Indian, go and marry an Indian girl. Why are you with a Chinese girl? This guy has absolutely no problem with Indians.
This is so racist. You know what you're saying, sir? I know. You have a Singapore t-shirt on right now. Yeah. I saw my country too, you know. Sure. I tell you something. This has nothing to do with nationalism, okay? It has all to do with race. My girlfriend, who's half Chinese, half Thai, should marry someone whose parents is very happy.
Oh, bro, that is just wrong. That is just too far.
If you think there is no such thing as racism, you're wrong.
That is absolutely fucking correct. That's the first correct thing he said. So damn.
Nothing against you personally, but I think it's a racist that the Indian prey on Chinese girl.
Prey? Bro, that is a bomb of a word. Saying that somebody else is a predator is not fucking joking.
These racist acts are unacceptable. I feel the hurt caused. Like all of you, I wish these incidents had not happened. Some have asked why we are experiencing this recent spate of racist incidents. They wonder if racism has gathered speed. I think we should see this in a broader context. The government monitors closely all incidents involving race and religion because we know how sensitive they can be. From our tracking, we know such incidents are not new. They were far more numerous earlier in our history, but declined gradually over the decades, although this year has seen significantly more cases than usual, most likely because of the stress of COVID-19. Now, such incidents don't always make the headlines, but racism still exists in Singapore. It's among us, in our streets, our neighborhoods, and our workplaces. And we clearly cannot leave things as they are. We are better than this. Whether online or offline, we must hold ourselves to higher standards and tackle racism wherever it exists in our society. But we would be fooling ourselves if we believed that racial and religious harmony were the natural order of things. It does not fall ready-made from the sky. There is nothing preordained about a multiracial society. For Singapore, the question of race has been a fundamental issue from the beginning. To put it simply, if race did not pose an existential challenge, Singapore would never have separated from Malaysia, and we would never have become an independent sovereign state. As Mr. Lee Kuan Yew declared on August 9, 1965, we are going to have a multiracial nation in Singapore.
Nem akartam több videót csinálni már, mert szerintem a miniszternek a beszéde, meg a bevágott videók eladják magukat, de hogy csinálom a feliratokat, nem tudom megállni szó nélkül, hogy nagyon nehéz a magyar fordítást megcsinálni az angol szövegre akkor, amikor teljesen különböző, vagy nyilvánvalóan eltérő jelentéssel használják a multiracial, a multi-ethnic és a multinational kifejezéseket. Amit ebben a mondatban a miniszter mondani, vagy pontosan mondott, nem csak akart, hanem amit pontosan mondott, az az, hogy egy több fajú nemzetet hoznak létre, és igen, ők merik, tudják nemzetnek hívni, nevezni. Ez volt a lényege a tervnek, hogy egy új szingapúri identitást hoznak létre 1965-ben, amikor egyébként abból lett leginkább elegük, a malájoknak meg a szingapúriakból, hogy a szingapúriak egy több fajra épülő országot, és a fajok egyenlőségén alapuló országot képzeltek el maguknak, miközben Malajzia mindent megtett azért, hogy a maláj lakosság élvezzen előnyöket. A maláj nemzetiségű lakosság élvezzen előnyöket. És Szingapúr fajra, nemzetiségre, etnikai hovatartozásra való tekintet nélkül, mint egy befogadó állam hoz létre egy új identitást, a szingapúri identitást, és ennek fényében születik az egész városállam, és ennek fényében van most szó arról, hogy ehhez képest újra élen a rasszizmus, ami nem új jelenség itt sem, de éppen erről szól ez a videóbejegyzés, hogy oké, és ezt ők hogyan reagálják le. Hát nézzük tovább a miniszter beszédét.
We will set the example. This is not a Malay nation, this is not a Chinese nation, this is not an Indian nation. Everybody will have his place, equal. But our founding leaders also knew that creating a Singaporean Singapore was not simply a matter of mouthing slogans. They knew we needed deliberate policies, carefully thought out safeguards and resolute efforts to ensure that minorities would be protected, that the majority would not abuse its dominance, that bigots and chauvinists from whatever race would be constrained and curbed. So the founding generation willed such a nation into existence, taking difficult and sometimes drastic steps to achieve this fundamental national ideal. They took firm action, including invoking the Internal Security Act against chauvinists of all varieties, including Chinese chauvinists. They made English a neutral language, common to all, our working language, the language of government, and the main medium of instruction in our schools. The racial riots of the 1960s are thankfully confined to history textbooks. And Singaporeans of my generation and our children have experienced decades of peace and harmony. We are not perfect, and there's still much work to be done. But if we are honest with ourselves, I think we will acknowledge that Singapore is one of the few places in the world where people of different races and faiths have lived peacefully and closely together for more than half a century. In Singapore, because we want racially integrated rather than segregated housing, we no longer have constituencies with built-in majorities of Indians and Malays. We did not set out to achieve racial harmony by creating a monolithic society. Our multiracialism does not require any community to give up its heritage or traditions. Ours is not the French way, insisting on assimilation into one master language and culture, speak French, accept French ways, and assimilate into French society. Instead, we decided to preserve, protect, and celebrate our diversity. Hence, we encourage each community to take pride in its own cultures and traditions. At the same time, we seek common ground among our communities and aim to expand our common space and strengthen our shared sense of belonging and identity. The Singaporean is not only the English-educated cosmopolitan, up to date with the latest trends in London, Paris, or New York. The Singaporean is also our fellow citizens who are more comfortable in Mandarin, Malay, Tamil, or other languages. Ours is not a melting pot society. Being a Singaporean has never been a matter of subtraction, but of addition. Not of becoming less, but more. Not of limitation and contraction, but of openness and expansion. We do not devalue diversity, but we accept it and we celebrate it. Go deeper to strengthen our cultural roots and at the same time reach higher to cross-pollinate with other cultures and thus develop a stronger shared Singaporean identity. But we can all agree that our multiracialism is not perfect and we have to keep working at it deliberately to reduce our imperfections step by step. Let me offer some suggestions on how we can go about doing this. First, we must recognize that in any multiracial society, it is harder to be a minority than a majority. This is so everywhere in the world. So it is important for the majority community in Singapore to do its part and be sensitive to and conscious of the needs of minorities. This cuts across all aspects of daily life. So I ask that we do more and take the extra step to make our minority friends, neighbors, co-workers feel comfortable. At the same time, I'm grateful that minorities have reciprocated by recognizing that the majority community has legitimate needs and concerns too. In this regard, it is important to realize that the Chinese community in Singapore is not monolithic. Sometimes people talk about Chinese privilege in Singapore. There may well be biases or blind spots that the Chinese community should become aware of and to rectify. But please understand that we still have a whole generation of Chinese Singaporeans who are more comfortable in Chinese than English and who consider themselves at a disadvantage in an English-speaking world. This brings me to my second point, which is that we must continue with our approach of mutual accommodation, trust, and compromise. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that we should refrain from voicing our unhappiness. On the contrary, we should be upfront and honest about the racialized experiences various groups feel and deal squarely with them. We must continue to speak up and even be prepared to have uncomfortable discussions, not to start arguments, but to begin civilized discussions, listen to each other, and understand all points of view. Because when one group jostles aggressively to assert its identity and rights over others, it will not take long before other groups feel put upon and start to jostle back. We already see this playing out in so many places around the world. When one side uses identity politics to push their cause, it invariably emboldens another to up the ante and make greater demands. We end up fueling our worst tendencies, our tribalism, hostility, and vengefulness. And if we go down this path, insisting on differences over commonality, minority groups will not win, and the outcome will be most unhappy for the majority community too. Finally, the government will continue to engage widely and to update our policies on race, as well as other policies that help to strengthen racial harmony in Singapore. Our policies are not cast in stone. And one current example is our review of Muslim nurses wearing the tudung with their uniform. This process of policy review entails detailed study and extensive dialogue between the government and our various communities. It cannot be rushed, nor should things be changed simply based on who shouts the loudest. We have worked hard at integrating new citizens to ensure they too embrace our values and way of life. Because while many new citizens are ethnically similar to us, they come from different cultural backgrounds, have not grown up or spent many years in our multiracial society, and will take time to fully appreciate or understand our multiracial approach. To conclude, this government will never waver in our commitment to promote harmony amongst all races and to ensure that all Singaporeans enjoy full and equal opportunities in life. Even when some of our compatriots fall short or neglect to play their part in this vital national project, let's see them as fellow citizens to be brought along, not adversaries to be shouted down or cancelled out. Then step by step, we can approach ever more closely to our ideal, one united people, regardless of race, language, or religion. Thank you.